Hi, my name is Adam, and in this video I'm going to cover the installation and use of the VAS SAVER, as well as cover some other important information you'll want to be aware of when using it. If this is the first time that you've used the VAS SAVER, I encourage you to watch the entire video. If you're just looking for the instructions on how to install the VAS SAVER, I'm going to cover that first to get you going as quickly as possible. To install the VAS SAVER, the only thing that you're going to need is a 2mm hex screwdriver or Allen key. The VAS SAVER kit includes, of course, the VAS SAVER itself, 4 screws, 2 pieces of Velcro, and at least 1 pigtail. If you ordered extra pigtails, those of course would be included with your kit. To install the VAS SAVER, the first thing that we want to do is just separate the 2 halves of the VAS SAVER if they are together, and you can do that by just pulling them apart like that. What I like to do is take the dongle and the back half of the VAS SAVER, which is the one that has the holes that go all the way through it, set them on a flat surface, and then just bring them together and snap them together. Then, just to make sure that the back half here is seated correctly and is providing enough clearance for the USB port, I just like to push down on it to make sure it's seated correctly on the back of the dongle. From there, you can take your pigtail and with the narrow side down, just line it up in this channel here. And you can, of course, lift it up and look and see and make sure you're aligned, but then you just want to push until you get that nice click and you know that it's seated correctly. From there, you just want to take the top half of the VAS SAVER, that's the one with the lettering on it, and these 2 posts here align with the 2 posts on the bottom half, and then you can just push it down like that. Then what you want to do is just lift it up and push down on it. You may or may not get a click depending on the fit, the exact fit on your dongle, but what you want to make sure is that the cable is just in that channel that's cut out for it. From there, what you want to do is take the 4 screws that are included with the kit and just insert them in the holes. And I recommend against using any sort of powered screwdriver. These are going into brass inserts, but those brass inserts are embedded in the plastic housing and may be stripped out if too much torque is applied. So you just want to screw these down all the way. Finger tight is all that's necessary. I just like to make sure that they're all nice and evenly tight. And that covers the basic installation of the VAS SAVER. Now, with the basic installation done, what you may want to do is take the 2 pieces of Velcro that are included with the kit and attach one to the back of the dongle. That way you keep the mode button clear, and the other to the wireless module. That way you can attach them together and then take your pigtail and plug it into the wireless module just like that. That is optional, you don't have to do that. You could just leave the dongle hanging if you like. If you need to plug in any other USB cable, either the OEM USB cable, that can just be done by plugging it in just like you normally would. And of course, that works with any other USB cable that you may need to use. The VAS SAVER is completely passive. It doesn't have any active circuitry in it. It doesn't interfere with the communication between the dongle and the vehicle or the dongle and any module that you may plug into it. So with the VAS SAVER installed, one of the most important things to remember is that the VAS SAVER is essentially permanently installed. It is fully removable, but it is designed to be put on there and stay on there. It is not designed to be unclipped like the wireless modules are. If you try to force this off while the screws are in place and the cover is on and you don't follow the proper removal procedure, you will damage the USB port on your dongle and possibly the VAS SAVER itself and the pigtail connection and all that. So just keep in mind that the VAS SAVER is designed to be put on there and not removed unless you follow the correct removal procedure, which I'll cover here in a second. So the pigtail on the VAS SAVER is considered a wear item, it's considered a consumable, and you should expect to have to replace it at some point. It's there to simply act as a sort of a sacrificial piece in order to protect the USB port on the dongle itself. The outer cable could become damaged depending on how much the whole thing is used and abused. or the USB port may become worn out from too many connection and disconnection cycles. If you're having reliability issues on the connection between like your wireless module or other USB cable, you may want to look at replacing the pigtail. And of course, I recommend having extras on hand so that you can keep your dongle in service. The first step to replacing the pigtail is, of course, to remove the 4 screws from the back, which I've already done here. And then the only thing that you need to properly remove it is some sort of thin pry tool. A guitar pick works really well, or a plastic spudger of some kind. I recommend using plastic. A credit card would also work. Now, when you remove the screws, the 2 halves of the VAS saver should separate enough for you to get a thin tool in between them. If not, apply a little bit of pressure, just enough to get the thin pry tool in place. And then what we want to do is we want to put a finger on the cable. What we're trying to avoid happening is the cable being pulled up as we pry the top off. If the cable is pried up towards my hand here, it could damage the port on the dongle. So you just want to support that cable and keep it pushed down, and then just pry up on the top of the VAS saver, and you just need it to get past that notch where the cable sits in, and then you can pull it off the rest of the way. From there, what you want to do is take the cable and sort of pinch it between your thumb and index finger, and just pushing against the back of, or the top of the VAS saver, just pull it straight out like that. I would not recommend making a habit of disconnecting and reconnecting the pigtail. This connector isn't particularly designed for being connected and reconnected without having some sort of casing around it. And from here, what you would do is take your new pigtail and install it the same way you did the original one, by plugging it in, putting the top cover back on, pushing it together, and installing the 4 screws. Now, as I covered before, the VAS saver is designed to essentially be installed and not removed at all. If you do need to remove it for whatever reason, this is what you would do. You would essentially follow the same procedure as you do when you are replacing the pigtail. Remove the 4 screws from the back, take a thin pry tool, put it between the 2 halves, support the cable with your finger, and pry the top up until you get the cable past the notch. Take the top off, pinch the pigtail between your thumb and index finger, disconnect the pigtail, and then from here there's 1 of 2 ways that you can actually take the back half of the VAS saver off. Sometimes you should be able to, depending on how many times this has been removed and put back on before. You can push the bottom of the VAS saver with your thumb there, and then take your other thumb and pop it off like that. If you can't do that, take a plastic spudger tool or other plastic pry tool and just put it between the dongle and the VAS saver and just pry it off just like that. And of course, if you need to reinstall it, it's the same installation procedure as before. So that covers the installation and basic use of the VAS saver, as well as some other important information like replacing the pigtail and also removing the VAS saver from the dongle completely if you need to. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Be happy to answer them for you. Thanks for watching.